Mr. Resch here with your document 7, 8, and 9 reflection, or an opportunity for you to check to see if you got all that you need. Document 7, we have a picture of this factory in this landscape or environment, and I hope you immediately notice the smoke in the surrounding area of the factory. This one appears to be negative in full. Nothing positive can be seen here. So what did I find? We can clearly see the carbon release to the atmosphere. We know that that isn't good, based on everything we've learned in our science classes. And the next thing is how the natural landscape is transformed and destroyed by this intrusion of a factory. So, in place of trees, in place of grass, we've got this intrusive factory, and it appears to not allow much to grow around it. Let's take a look at Doc 8. Document 8, Manchester in 1844, written by Leon Foucher. Here's what he says. A little town of Hyde was at the beginning of the century a little hamlet of only 800 people on the summit of a barren hill, the soil of which did not yield sufficient food for the inhabitants. The brothers Ashton have peopled and enriched this desert. Mr. T. Ashton employs 1,500 work people in his factories. The young women are well and decently clothed. The houses inhabited by the work people form long and large streets. Mr. Ashton has built 300 of them, which he lets or rents for 75 cents per week. Everywhere is to be observed cleanliness, which indicates order and comfort. Okay, one of the things that I immediately see that I forgot to mark in my little notes down here is that this town of Hyde, so I'm going to note that, I'm going to just highlight it. Town of Hyde used to be 800 people, now at least has 1,500 people in it. So the town has grown immensely. So that's one thing to note. Here's some others. Mr. T. Ashton and his brother have brought life to a desert-like environment where food wouldn't grow. He employs 1,500 working individuals. Some of these are women who can afford decent clothes. He has brought organization to the city in the form of housing on streets. And lastly, everywhere is to be observed cleanliness and order, which also implies comfort. So those are positive impacts the Industrial Revolution had on this specific town. Let's take a look at Doc 9. Here we see a bunch of women in a sewing factory. This is probably from the 1950s, later part of the last Industrial Revolution. And hopefully here you see mainly positive stuff, right? There's one negative that I came up with. We'll talk about that. So what I first noted is that women each have their little substation here. So I would say that work appears organized for each of the women there. Lighting appears to be sufficient. We get that sense because it's mainly white. And obviously there's a lot of jobs here. So we probably say there's at least 100 jobs, and it's not just jobs, it's 100 jobs, and it's for women. Okay, you got to remember in the 1950s, it was not commonplace for women to work. Not really until the 60s and 70s did women start to transform into the work environment like they are today. Okay, as far as negative impacts go, here's what I came up with. And it really is just focused on the location of the women here. And it's the quarters, the working quarters of women appear to be a little bit confined, especially with working with a needle machine that works really, really fast. Okay, so that's what I got for your analysis for documents 7, 8, and 9. Hopefully you're keeping up. We'll catch you in the next lesson.